Hi, this is Cindy Fodor with Stamp the Love, and I'm coming to you with Technique Thursday. I had a request for partial die cutting technique, and so today I thought I would show you a couple of different ways in which you can make your dies do a lot more for you. I have a ton of stuff to show you. I'm not going to be finishing cards on this just because I have so many different ways to show you how to use your dies in different ways that I will show you the finished card and partial parts of them. If you would like to stamp along, you will be able to pause this and finish your card as you go. So let's get started. All right, so I'm going to just scoot my computer back here so it's out of the way. And let's start with very simple one. Let's start with this idea. This is one that I have done several times. However, when I went to do it this time, I really struggled to find the right die that would work for this. So I used a leaf from our Stitched Leaves dies. Comes with Love of Leaves as the stamp set and the dies. And I showed this in, I think, a Facebook Live on Monday. And I showed a card using these dies, not this technique, but using these dies. And so I seem to really enjoy using them. They're just beautiful, and I love fall, and I love stamping all things fall. So I'm going to go ahead and take out these two dies, and that's what we're going to focus on today. So once again, this is the card. So we're going to cut out just a part of the leaf here. So I have gone ahead and cut my cardstock at 4 1/4 by 11. And let me just scoot this out here. All right, so I want to cut just a part of this. Go ahead and leave both of these together because I like the stitching that this centerpiece cuts at the same time as I'm doing my cutting. And the trick to this is deciding where you want your cut to end. And I wanted it to end sort of at the edge of an end of a leaf. What do I want to say? Where it's starting to go back over. So it's not terribly critical where you stop, but I am considering that I'm going to keep my paper straight here. And I am going to place my top plate. I apologize that my overhead light is going to shine off of that, and it's going to cause a real problem here. But I can't off because then you won't be able to see it. So I'm looking to see where my plate is going to cut, and then I'm going to adjust my die according to how I want that to go. So that looks like a good place. Now there's a beveled edge here on the edge of the plate, so that means it's not going to cut there. It's actually going to cut back here about 1/8 of an inch. So I'm going to slide that just a little bit more. And that looks good, except that I scooted this little guy here. So let's get him back where he belongs. Washi tape will be helpful, or whatever tape you use to keep things in place. It's sort of like sewing for me. Pins are good, but I tend to not take the time to use them. Okay, so now I'm ready to go through, and I can just run the whole way through because I know that it's only going to cut where the second plate was at, where it put pressure on the die. So now, if you turn it over, you'll see that it did not cut through the rest of that. All right, so let's take this out. And I'm going to show you how I finished this card. Let me just scoot this aside for a second because that's I do have a cutter somewhere here. Oh, there it is. I forgot that I was going to need that, so it was sort of stashed a little bit. Okay, so what I did with this is I just decided, you can see here that this is a different height than this is, and that's how I wanted it. I wanted it to look offset. So I didn't measure anything. I just came in here, and what I did was I put my, if I can just get a good spot there. I'm looking down into the crack here where my cutter blade goes, okay? And I am just looking to where the edge of the leaf, the last cut here, okay? And then I'm just going to stick my head in here. I'm going to come in here and put my blade down right where I think that's going to be, and I'm just going to pull it towards me. I'm going to do the same thing over here, and if it doesn't line up exactly, I might need to snip that just a hair. Let me just grab my scissors here. Just a little snip there. I didn't quite get it the whole way. There we go. And then coming this way, I don't want it to come the whole way up here, so I cut that a little further than I wanted it to be. So I feel like I'm scooting out of your vision, but, and then I'm gonna just start about there and cut that direction. And once again, just a little snip. We'll finish that. So there's the top part of my card, and now to finish this card, I'm going to show you two ways to do it. So I love the stitching on here so much that I could not throw that away, so I just scooted it down here and put it on the bottom of my card, and I actually took a piece of window sheet and applied it inside of here so that I could add that bottom piece. Hopefully that makes sense. Looks a little smudgy, but anyways, and then I added our suede ribbon and our ribbon sliders. And I just, I think this is, I forget what this cording is from, but I just braided it a little bit because I wanted it to be a little larger and more, show up a little bit more. Now, this card I did with the same set and the same idea. I'm just going to click in here a little closer. I used the die below here, this die right here, to get these stitch looks. And I just added a piece of paper. I had a scrap of this laying around from our plaid 6x6 paper, and that I was using actually on Monday for that class. And so I played around. I didn't want it straight. It was too uniform. And I found that I really liked the angle. Added one of our corner pieces here where the ribbon slides in the corners come. And then I decided that the saying should also be on a diagonal to follow through with that. So anyways, hope you like that. So those two ideas were this first one that I showed you then, where you can actually do the front of your card with part of a die. All right, just give me a second. I'm gonna switch to a different one. I think I'm done with the cutter. I'm gonna show you this one next. Let me just first, and then I'll get our big shot over here. Okay, so this card, we're going to show you how to do sort of the same idea we did there, except with a large border type, not a border die, but a large type die. So I'm going to show you, here's the die. I'm using this. This is a new set called Celebration Labels Dies, and it partners with this stamp set for the holidays. Really cool stamp set, and the dies are fabulous. You can, with these, you could make a cute little topper, which I didn't do yet, but I do intend to. I used, let me see. Yeah, I used this one. So you can see there how I used part of that. So let me just show you how that works. Because I have a fold here, because this card is folded, okay? So I have to figure out how that's going to work. Let me scoot back over here. Let me zoom this out a little bit. Get this back in place. Okay. I'm going to use those in a second. All right. So I can't cut through like this with it folded because that would cut through both pieces. So I have to cut it like this, but I don't want to cut here. So what am I going to do? I'm going to do the same thing I did before. I'm going to position this where I want it to cut, and I don't want any curve showing, so I'm going to scoot that up there to the fold. And then I'm going to take my top plate, and that worked really well. Let me just scoot this up here. I usually pull this out far enough so that I can slide this back and forth through here and position it where I want to. I find that the top plate with it, sorry, my hand was making that unfocused. The top plate should be the one that's sliding through first, because otherwise, if you try to do it the other way, your machine is going to push that plate out of the way. So this way, it's catching it as it goes, and it's not going to push anything out of your way. All right, so let me get this lined up here again. I'm going to make sure it's even on either side because everything counts here. And then next I'm going to remember that that bevel is not going to be, probably not going to be pressing down. It might a little. If that cuts a little, it's not a terrible thing. I'm going to go with that it's not going to cut, and we'll see. I have it right on the score line here, so let's see how that goes. All right, yeah, it did cut just a little bit. So the bevel is doing some pressure and some cutting. All right, so I don't want this piece here, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to snip that right there at the fold. And now I have the front of my card completed. Looks like that. And this is the look that I want. So I took a piece of our designer paper, and I'm going to have to put in the comments the stuff that I use, because I'm using a lot of things, and it's really hard to tell you what everything is at this time. So that's just going to fit in there. I used some of our Misty Moonlight ribbon for around the bottom of that. And then this stamp here, I stamped this little piece from the Celebration Tidings, and I stamped it in Memento ink and colored it with our blends. And then I used a couple more pieces here to get the gold embossing to match the embossing here. And I want to show you this little piece yet. So let me show you how I got that. Take this. This is not partial cutting, but this is putting two different dies together to get the look that I want. So, so this is the size that I want, but I didn't want all of this loopiness of it, because there's enough loopiness going on here that I wanted it straighter. So, excuse me, I'm going to go ahead and cut that first. All right, and now I'm going to bring in my stitched rectangles, and I'm going to choose, I can't remember which one I used. I think it's this one. going to choose this one. And I'm going to line it up just past the scallops there on the edge. And run that through so that it's still going to be stitched the whole way around, but I'm getting rid of the extra little loops on the edge. So there you go. Okay, so that was the stitched rectangles along with the new celebration dies. All right, let me just throw those all in a pile. So bringing that back in, that created this piece right here, and then I embossed on that as well. And then this opens, and I will put a white piece inside of here to write on. Okay, so that's that card. Let's see, what else do you want to see? I have 2 more ideas to show you. I think I'll do this one next. And I do need to sit down here, so let me just find a spot. This one, I had never done this before, but I wanted to play with this paper, and this lighting makes it not look like it goes together. It looks like this is blue, but this is actually purple. This is our gorgeous grape. So let me see if I can get it to where it actually, this does not look at all the right color. This is actually Granny Apple Green, and so is this. And then I want to show you what I did with these. So let me first show you this part here. And how I did that was I'm using our, this is turned around for some reason. This is our stitched nested label dies. And I'm missing one of mine. I'm not sure what happened to it. It's gone, hopefully not for good, but it's been gone for quite a while. So I'm going to use the largest one here. And I have a piece of paper that is, it's 3 inches wide. This end is 4 1/4. And this end is 5 1/4. So there's an inch difference here. And I am going to attempt to show you how I did this. So what you have to understand here is that this is folded, so we didn't cut an edge. I had a V here and a V here. So I can't just stick this on here and cut it because I'll cut through that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this cut first, and then we'll open it up. We'll cut just this part, and then we will open it up and cut just this part. Okay, so let me show you that. All right, so first I said, notice how I always put my plate through first, and I work back here. And I want this to cut here, but I don't want to cut this because I need to cut that later. So I'm going to stick this in here, and it doesn't matter how far I go. I just don't want to get close to this edge because I don't want any of that cutting. So let's go ahead and do this first. I am going to go back over that just to make sure it cut through both of those layers. Okay. All right, there we go. That looks good. All right, now I'm going to open this, and actually I'm going to just snip away this extra stuff here because I don't really want that getting in the way of anything. Okay, now, whoops. Now we're ready to need to go this way because now we're cutting this end, but I don't want to cut out here. So, but I do need to make sure that this lines up in the track. So you have to sort of lift it up, but I also need that point to be there. So I have to scoot it back far enough And I'm just moving it until it's into the track. I feel that the design has laid right where it was before. And you're just going to carefully lay that down. And I can see where I cut here, so I don't need to go far above that. Just going to scoot up here. All right, that should have taken care of that part. All right, there's that one. And now we can come back here and we can finish this one. And I think I want to come the whole way down to here. So I'm going to turn this around. So I'm always putting on the end what I don't want cut. I'm always starting with what I want cut at the beginning, and what I don't want cut comes out here to the end. And so I'm going to line this up again. Once again, I have to make sure I'm in the track of the previous cut. And it's definitely easier to do that while it's not flat, but you sort of need it to be flat. So I think I have it right there. I'm not left-handed, so doing this left-handed is very distracting to me. Not sure if I went far enough. Let's see. Yep, that looks good. Okay, so there we go. Cute little chevron type note card. And once again, I'm going to post a picture of this if I can get an actual good picture. I am really, well, that doesn't look too bad right there. You see the green. It just looks way too yellow. It's probably my lighting in here. But I just wanted to tell you about this really quick. So I decided to use the Pretty Parasol. It has been sitting here. I'm so excited about this stamp set because it goes with a punch that came out during the spring season. And so we got a new stamp set to go with it. And they're just so adorable. And when I pulled this paper out, this is called Artistic Sketches or something. I forget what the exact name of the paper. But I didn't have this paper originally, but then when I decided to use the parasol, or the umbrella, I thought this one sort of looked like some rain splatters. So I went with that. So I did stamp this little bouquet of flowers right here, just to add a little bit of interest there, and to sort of pull the stamp set in. And this is the saying from the stamp set, one of the sayings, and the font is just adorable. It says, "Wishing you warmth and sunshine." And then on the inside, I put, "You make my day brighter." I cut this piece out. Then I decided that I wanted this to go up here further, so it's sort of messy, but just ignore that. And I do want to show you this. This is, we do not have anything in Granny Apple Green for our accessory. So I wanted to show you how I fixed that, how I remedied that. Let me grab where did I put them? Oh, here they are. So I used the Playing with Patterns resin dots that are, I want to say Coastal Cabana, maybe Daffodil Delight, and Purple Posy. And so I decided that I wanted Granny Apple Green. So I used a Granny Apple Green blend, and I went over it several times. You can see ink here. When I use my blends to color these, I go over it on here several times. You have to let it dry in between. And for the card that I am making with, since I'm doing the navy, where did I put that now? Since I did the navy, I'll show you what I'm planning to do there. But I wanted a navy one, and so I already colored this one. I wanted to see how that would look, and I'm going to go back over it again with my navy blend. And I noticed if I wanted it really dark, I could just sort of blotch it on and let it sit there and dry. And it dries really fast. and I can use it pretty much right away. I just want to go around these edges and make sure I got them. You definitely don't want to do this while it's on the card. However, you can always go back and touch up the top on the card. You just can't do the edges. All right, so let me set that aside to dry while I finish showing you the, I'm using the same artistic paper. We'll post all of the supplies that I use for these cards. But I'm using a different piece of it. And this is just, this is the back side, but I'm using this blue to go with this navy. So this will be going over it like that. I don't know why I did not cut that to size, but I will. I'll finish this card and I will post all of them. Like I said, I'm not putting everything together today just because there's so much to show you. So there's just a fun way to do like a chevron tag. And I have one more thing to show you, one more cut to show you. And that is this one. I was just looking through all of my stamps trying to figure out what would work nice for what I'm trying to show you guys. And of course the ornate dies popped out at me and I was like, well, I have to use them. So what I'm doing here is I'm using Rococo Rose, and like I said, okay, so I'm going to be doing this in blue, and unlike that other one, I want this one to be symmetrical. So I'm going to put a few marks here. This is 4 inches wide, so I do need to know where the 2-inch mark is. I'm going to come down. I'm not pressing hard, but I'm just trying to follow a straight line until I get a little below half. And I'm just going to put a little tick mark there. And then I'm going to put a little mark at the 4-inch mark. And also, I'm just bringing this down to be in the 4-inch track so that I can put a mark here at the 4-inch mark. Okay, so both sides now have a mark at the 4-inch mark so that I can make sure that this is dimensional. All right, so now I'm ready to cut this, and I'm going to make sure that I'm centered there. This isn't necessarily where that point's going to be, but I do want to make sure that my this tick mark here will line up with that. And once again, I'm going to turn that to make sure that center stays near that mark. So, but I'm not lined up here, so there's a problem. That means I need to come up this way further. So now I'm still, let's see, where's my mark there? I think that's it. There's my mark. And this is getting a little closer. Let's bring that up a little further. There, that looks about right. Now I want to make sure this is perfectly straight on my machine because I want to cut straight across here. I am going to be cutting. Again, I don't think I'm out far enough to slide that through. I'm going to slide that through, and I'm going to line this up. I want it below this scallop because I don't want that scallop to cut. And that looks pretty good. So I'm going to slide that through there. Let's see if that cut the whole way through. That looks pretty good. I did not bring my die brush in here with me, so I will have to poke some of these out. I do like to run the die brush over and get all that excess out of there. But you can see there the pretty design that it made. Where did my pokey tool get to? Let me just poke this out so that at least you can see that part. So pretty. Let's see, is there anything I can contrast here? Let's contrast it with this so that you can see the background. And then what I did here was I cut out a piece of that, I think it was that same one, I'm not sure, maybe a bigger one, and just tucked it up under there so that this would show really nicely. I wanted it to look sort of like maybe a napkin on a table setting or something really fancy and pretty. It would be nice for maybe a tea party. I made it into a wedding card just because it was very, very fancy. So I just stamped this in a basic gray, added a pearl, and of course I did the tulle ribbon, but I also did some of the seam binding narrowed just because I wanted it to stand out a little bit more. And then the inside I stamped with another saying for the wedding gift, and I used the little flower bunch from the ornate style since I was using the dies to go with that. And I will tell you that the sayings for the wedding came from Path of Petals. Just beautiful fonts and sayings. I didn't use the flowers from this set. So I hope that gives you some ideas. Hopefully you can try those out. Leave a comment for me. I would appreciate it. It helps me a lot in knowing if it's been helpful to you. It also helps me with getting some ratings that I'm desperately in need of, because you know how this Google stuff works. So, all right. If you need anything, check me out at stamптhelove.blogspot.com, and I will be happy to help you out. Thanks. Have a great day. God bless.